Why am I here? Well, I am here because I am fortunate. Now, you might wonder as to why am I fortunate? Am I fortunate because I come from an affluent family? Am I fortunate because I have the luxury of choice? Or am I fortunate because back in the day my grandfather drove a shiny black ambassador? No, I'm not fortunate because of all of these reasons. I am fortunate because I was raised to be an opinionated woman. When I was growing up as a child, my family always told me never ever shy away from speaking your mind. Never be afraid to question the authorities when you feel something is wrong. When I was growing up, I was allowed to gather and process information the way I wanted to. My family never fed me with their perspectives. Instead, they let me have my own. And that is exactly why I consider myself very, very fortunate. When I was growing up, my family, my father, my mother, my grandfather, everybody told me that while being a woman doesn't make me any less of a human being, it doesn't make me any more either. I can be anything that I want to be, I can get anywhere I want to get, and I will get everything that I work for. They gave me this unique ability, rather they helped me develop this unique ability to judge, differentiate between black and white, and most importantly, they learned to place their faith in my judgment. And in all possibilities, that is the only reason why I could have a journey that is worth sharing. And that is exactly why I am here today. And now, moving on to the most important part, which is what am I going to talk about? Well, I have quite a diverse career, but I have chosen a topic that is completely probably not related to my career, or perhaps it is something that has come out of experiences. But before I get there, I would like to play a small AV for you all.
Sultry, sexy, exotic. My first guest tonight walks two paths with equal aplomb, actress and singer. Please welcome the movie star who's not only known in her city, but also globally, Priyanka Chopra. He's a survivor superstar. He's definitely had a roller coaster ride at the movies, but has always emerged victorious. Impeccable comic timing and superstar screen presence on celluloid. Please welcome the man of the millions and apparently with the millions, mega movie star Akshay Kumar.
The glam queen of Indian sports, Sania Mirza. From serving up aces on a tennis court to sashaying down the ramp in a designer outfit, Sania Mirza does everything with true panache. She has not only been India's top tennis player for several years now, but has also won over a zillion hearts with her glamorous appeal. No wonder she has been hailed as a style icon and enjoys a wide fan following even among people who are not much tuned into sports.
पेश करेंगे क्रिकेट की दुनिया के एक ऐसे चमकते सितारे को जो जब अपना बल्ला लेकर मैदान में उतरता है तो बड़े बड़े बॉलर्स के दिल धड़कने लगते हैं। ऐसा बल्लेबाज जिसमें सचिन तेंदुलकर को अपना भविष्य दिखाई देता है। इंडियन टीम का जाबाज बैट्समैन विराट कोहली।
So ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure the point that I was trying to make is very, very evident. Irrespective of what industry a woman belongs to, irrespective of what her credentials are, irrespective of what her achievements are, in India, we will notice we have this tendency of reducing a woman to her physical appearance. Now, there is a question, a very important question that all of us should be asking ourselves as to, were we born this way? Were we born to be sexist? Or was it something that went wrong when we were growing up? For example, how many of you think that women are weak by birth or men are violent by birth? Anybody who thinks that way? I'm sure no, right? Nobody is anything by birth. It is something, the entire process of becoming a human being is actually the process of growing up. And in this entire process, the most important factor is the influences that you have while you're growing up. I'm going to talk about a few influences that I have had while I was growing up. When I was in school, I had this subject called culture course, wherein we were taught about various stories that were driven from the Indian mythology, and they made it relevant to the current day and time. One such story was the story of goddess Sati. In the story, what happens is Sati marries against the wishes of her father, and when she goes back to her father's house during a function, the father insults her husband, which is Lord Shiva, and goddess Sati decides to jump into the pyre and give her life away because she was told, or she thinks, that her husband's respect and her husband's ego is more important than her life. Moral of the story being, what is a woman in India expected to do? A woman in India is expected to more or less be a provider. Not a provider by going out and fetching the money that is needed to go and buy food. No. A woman is expected to stay at home, cook for the husband, cook for the children, and nurture them. And in case anything goes wrong with the husband, probably jump into the pyre because, hey, remember you were told Sati did that. In order to be the ideal Indian woman, you will have to follow the culture, and that is be the Sati. The second influence, a very important influence while we were growing up, I'm sure everybody out here is aware of Mahabharata, right? It is one of the most important Indian epic. In Mahabharata, we see a story that is basically a war between two male egos. It is the war between people who have clashes in their opinions. But at the end of the day, the bottom line being, we always say, oh, had it not been for Draupadi, there would not have been any war. We've realized that we've been conditioned to blame a woman for everything that happens in our life. Sometimes we blame our mother, sometimes we blame our sister, sometimes we blame our female friend, sometimes we just blame ourselves because we say, hey, we were born like this, we do not have equal opportunities, we do not have equal rights, we are expected to be mothers, we are expected to quit our jobs because it is our responsibility to look after our children. But that is not the fact. These are the influences that we've had while we are growing up, and probably that is why we think the way we do, because this is centuries of conditioning that has made us the nation, the society that we are today. And it is time we start questioning our influences. It is time we start questioning authorities. It is time we start questioning things that do not make sense to us logically. Another very important influence while growing up is probably Ramayana. We've all been brought up with the stories of Ramayana, and the most important part of Ramayana, or rather the entire episode that gives rise to the war that happens in Ramayana later on, is the abduction of Sita. We all know that when Sita was alone in their kutir, as it was called, Lakshman drew a Lakshman Rekha around Sita, tried to confine her to the limits of Lakshman Rekha in the name of her own safety. Now, by logic, my logic tells me that a woman who can survive in a jungle is certainly ought to be physically strong. You cannot expect somebody who's not physically strong to survive in a jungle. Am I right? You definitely cannot. A person who's physically not very strong, physically does not have the strength to do the things that are required to do in a jungle, the person will not be able to survive. But here we are being told a story of Sita where she's in a jungle, she's surviving, and she's doing very well at that for that matter. And here we see Lakshman, who decides to draw Lakshman Rekha around Sita, calls it a Lakshman Rekha, and tells her, Bhabi, you stay within the limits of the Lakshman Rekha and you will be safe. But no, Sita being Sita, decides to cross the Lakshman Rekha. She is abducted. And now here, if you look at the entire story, people never blame Ravan for abducting her, or people never blame Lakshman for deciding that he was right when he thought he could confine Sita to the limits of the Lakshman Rekha and tell her that you have to be inside to be safe. Nobody questions Ram as to why he did not teach Sita how to defend herself. All we have ever heard is had Sita stayed within the confines of that Lakshman Rekha, she would have been safe. And that is exactly what today we as a country tell our women, that in case you want to be safe, you stay within the limits. What I want to ask is, who is the one who decides these limits? Who is the one who sets these limits for us? How convenient it is to confine Sita, confine a woman to the limits of Lakshman Rekha and tell her that this is your Rekha and you have to stay within. I am not going to stay within any Lakshman Rekha. No Rekha can confine me because I am blessed with education, empowerment, self-belief, confidence, and I know I can conquer the world when I want to. And that is exactly why I'm not going to stay within the limits. Another thing that I want to bring to your attention is that when we hear about all the epics that are a part of Indian culture or Indian history or Indian mythology, talk about, say, Ramayana, talk about Mahabharata, talk about Bhagavad-Gita, you will come to understand that all these epics have been written by males. Everything has been written by a gender that does not understand another gender. These are all the perspective of a male. Maybe according to Valmiki, Sita was not strong enough. Maybe according to Ved Vyasa, Draupadi was the cause of everything. But what we need to understand is had the things been written differently from a different perspective, would we be different people? Would we still be sexist? Would we still be gender biased? And would it be a woman's world? No. Absolutely not. Because one of the most important characteristics of a woman is that she is a nurturer. One thing that you cannot take away from a woman is the fact that she is a nurturer. Well, this is a topic, like I said earlier, very close to my heart, and I could talk for hours and hours with respect to this topic, but I see that I have very limited time left. So I'm going to leave you with these last thoughts, that is, under the garb of tradition, culture, value, history, heritage, for centuries now, women have been oppressed and suppressed. It is time we start questioning these traditions. It is time we start questioning the heritage. It is time we start questioning the values. While you keep your values, your heritage, your traditions, your history close to you, remember, you have to keep self-power, self-belief, empowerment, education, awareness, and above all, logic closer to yourself. May logic prevail. Thank you so much.